A sequel to 2019's Modern Warfare was bound to have a ton of hype. Modern Warfare 2019 proved that Infinity Ward knew what made old COD special, while also knowing how to propel it into the modern era. MW 2019 was next gen before next gen, and borrowed a lot of concepts from other shooters, as well as a lot of concepts from the COD franchise that hadn't been utilized in a while. Modern Warfare 2019 felt like a modern realization of what COD 4, Modern Warfare 2, Black Ops 1, and Modern Warfare 3 were trying to be back in the Xbox 360 PS3 era. Did it do that flawlessly? Did it do it in a way that I appreciate? Was skill-based matchmaking a non-issue? No, obviously there was a lot of issues with MW 2019, but I'm talking about surface level mechanics, map design, weapons, gunplay, stuff of that sort. MW 2019 understood the assignment of making a modern era Call of Duty game. Because while it felt modern, a lot of its designs were rooted in the last-gen Call of Duty games, because I think Infinity Ward truly understood what made players flock to those games long-term. And I made a whole video about that I might reiterate in a newer video soon if you guys want to hear me talk about the design philosophies of old COD and why the franchise took off the way it did. But why is Modern Warfare 2 currently considered dead, dying, or at the very least boring? It's detailed, it's pretty, its weapons are highly customizable, so what's missing? Well, in this video we're going to go over the categories of things that are missing. We're going to be talking about create a class, maps, content, skill gap, and hype. And yeah, we're going to start off right now with maps. So, maps are in charge of providing combat variance, balance, and intrigue. Modern Warfare 2 isn't a hero shooter that focuses on mastering a character's ability, or a movement shooter that focuses on perfecting traversal over complicated terrain. It's also not a tactical immersive milsim that makes your ass clench with the on-setting video game-related PTSD like games like Insurgency or Hell Let Loose or Squad can provide. Because it's none of those things, Modern Warfare 2 would have to focus on the simple elements of FPS gameplay to provide the depth and intrigue required for long-term replay value. Call of Duty's never been that complicated, but yet we sink hours and hours and hours into it because there's a beauty in its simplicity. Core values, core FPS values, are generally done fairly well in Call of Duty games. But in Modern Warfare 2, the issue we have is that the maps are played too safe. No gimmicks, nothing interactable, very few areas that provide interesting combat puzzles or areas for you to outplay your opponents, boring power positions, and even worse, in my opinion, the maps lack neat bits of visual flair. We don't have any dark, creepy maps, no heavy weather effects, or even some quality nostalgia bait in the form of remakes or re-releases or reimaginings. What a fucking shame. These maps have no hazards, no lava, no, 1,000-foot drops you can fall down if you jump wrong. The maps are played safe. No zip lines, no destructible walls, no rain, no maps that are dark and creepy. Hell, we have a map that takes place next to a racetrack and the racetrack isn't involved in the quality of the map at all. That racetrack should be a hazard, but unfortunately it's just in the background. There's no maps with a giant 3-story restaurant like Crash. There's no maps with a destructible environment like you would see in Call of Duty Ghosts. There's no maps with heavy weather effects that we saw last year with Vanguard. I can't knock over a gas station. There's no rain pouring down on my gun. There's nothing happening on these maps. Because some of the other things I'm going to talk about will circle back to this topic, we're going to move on to the next segment, and that is create a class. While the gunsmith and platform systems are welcome additions, making the rest of your class is a limiting piece of shit. And not only is it limiting, it's at odds with the core Call of Duty experience. Part of Call of Duty's success as a franchise ever since 2007 is that players can sit at work, in class, at awkward dates, and be thinking about the next playstyle they want to take on in the latest Call of Duty. A stealth class, a tank class, OBJ, rushing class, a balanced class has a little bit of everything, or otherwise. Modern Warfare 2 completely fails the create a class system because the game basically says, oh, you want to customize your sniper rifle? Awesome, here's a billion combinations. Oh, you want to make a sniper class? Making an anti-streak class or a stealth class or a rushing class in Modern Warfare 2 is honestly not there. It's not just bad, it's not there. Not only are your perks locked behind a timer, the base perks that you start with aren't really playstyle defining. In fact, some of them to me are just crutch perks that you're required to have to not get blown up too often or concussion too often. And there isn't that give and take you have to play in your brain with like a pick 10 system because you're just guaranteed everything. It's just a matter of what you want to be guaranteed. And that brings me right to content. Content. The game only launched with 10 multiplayer maps, and no launch remakes like we saw with Vanguard having Dome and Castle, and only one of the maps in the 10 launch maps has the swimming gimmick. Neat. The next 2 maps we received in Season 1, we already had enough of back in Modern Warfare 2019. MW2 should have launched with Shipment and Shoot House if they just had to be there, and then in Season 1 we should have gotten 2 new maps with interesting gimmicks, or at least 2 remakes of maps that we haven't seen in a really long time. Maps like Estate or Derail or Skid Row. But of course, no. We also don't have any new exciting perks that affect the game. That's a stain on Modern Warfare 2's personal record because, well, think about it. Every COD game for a while introduced new perks or new weapon perks or something new that affected the game in an interesting way. Vanguard had a lot of problems, but at least it had perks that were new that we had never seen in previous Call of Duty games, because perks are playstyle defining. So if you make and design new perks we've never seen before, you might actually be unlocking playstyles or variances of playstyles we've never seen before. But no, Modern Warfare 2 doesn't have that. Look, this game has guns and attachments up the wazoo, and some of the new pieces of equipment, like the camera that you can throw out, the decoy, the DDoS, the drill charge, those are great pieces of equipment, and I love how they reworked the heartbeat sensor. There's some good stuff here. But the way they handled the amount of perks, let alone how the perks work, the perks that they added and the maps that they have make the game feel regressive and small compared to other COD games. And when this is a sequel to the game that made Call of Duty feel relevant again, this is a sequel to the game that made Call of Duty feel big again. You know, Modern Warfare 2019 was a big game. So for this to be the sequel to that, and to feel this regressive, well, it's starting to put together a pretty decent picture of why people are having a little bit of trouble enjoying this game right now. The next thing is skill gap. Modern Warfare 2 feels almost too basic when it comes to movement and gameplay. Now, I'm personally okay with the lack of slide canceling or snaking, and 3D movement doesn't make me hot and bothered like it does for some people, but the main new movement mechanic is high mantling and ledge hanging, and the ability to use handguns while doing said ledge hangs. And the maps don't seem to be built around doing that in interesting ways. There are some interesting things to do with the movement on some maps for sure, but imagine maps with real verticality and interesting power positions. You have to imagine it because the game doesn't really have any of that. You can tell when a game is built around its movement and its mechanics and its gimmicks, but when they feel tacked on so that the game doesn't feel quite so simple, well, it's just not a very exciting feeling. I feel like Modern Warfare 2 was finished and then they were like, oh, this feels exactly like Modern Warfare 2019. And doesn't even have something as simple as the ability to move while mantled like Vanguard had. So, you know, maybe we should have the ability to hang from a ledge or something. Like, that's what it feels like. The maps in the game don't feel designed around that feature. Modern Warfare 2, like Modern Warfare 2019, has a good bit of parkour ability to it, but the maps don't feel designed around it. So outplaying your opponents in an interesting combat puzzle with interesting power positions and verticality, it's not really a thing here. The game feels too basic. And again, I don't miss slide canceling, but that's another element that makes the game, for some people, feel too basic. And then hype. This one's simple. Infinity Ward should be tweeting out hints about what's coming out and try to build hype throughout the content dry spells in between seasons and major updates. Hype isn't superficial, it builds hope for the bored gamer, so why keep cool shit a secret? The missing factor throughout Modern Warfare 2 is depth and hype. People are bored because the maps don't challenge you, the movement feels like an afterthought, and your classes are limiting. There's a lack of practical content, and luckily, all of this is fixable. We don't have dug-in, deep-rooted issues in Modern Warfare 2's DNA. A perk rework and a shift in focus towards adding more maps that are more interesting could take this game to the next level. I like Modern Warfare 2, and I want it to succeed, but the devs have to direct their energy better for that to happen. They have had a very ambitious amount of stuff to work on over the last 3 years, and now I want to see them focus on what got left behind. Between Warzone, DMZ, the campaign, Spec Ops, and multiplayer, including Ground War, there's a lot that they were working on, but they worked on it. It's out now, and now they need to focus on what got left behind, and that is the core multiplayer experience, the core Create a Class experience. This is all incredibly fixable. A perk rework is not out of the question, in my opinion, and again, more and more interesting maps, also great. Then just build hype around it. If you have a nostalgic map or weapon coming out, tweet some hints about it a month in advance. Let the community build with anticipation. Let me be excited for something that's coming instead of waiting for a week before the season comes out to say, hey, you're getting 2 maps you didn't want, and then fucking off. So while I totally get people being upset with Modern Warfare 2, I wouldn't say we should give up on it right away. Unless you hate the core gameplay, feel, vibe, aesthetic, and tone of the game, yeah, then maybe you should fuck off and leave it alone. But if you like the core game and you are feeling bored at the moment, I don't think that boredom's gonna last forever. At least I'd like to think it wouldn't. Anyway, that's why people are bored with Modern Warfare 2. Let me know if you agree with me or if I left something out. If you are bored for a different reason that I didn't mention, yeah, let me know down in the comment section below. And if you are having a ton of fun with the game, tell me that again in the comment section below. I'll see you when I see you. Goodbye.